At 1 p.m. on the 3rd of July, 1863, one of the most important attacks of the whole Civil War would begin with the largest cannonade ever on the Western Hemisphere. Second Lieutenant William Nathaniel Wood, who was an officer in the 19th Infantry Virginia Regiment, was in the center of Pickett's charge, wrote of the Confederate cannonade, quote, "I never before saw such a display of artillery and felt that hill must fall." Having walked the battlefield and read first-hand accounts, I have a fair bit of knowledge regarding Pickett's charge and the Civil War as a whole. Is a subject of personal interest. Had the Union not repelled Pickett's charge, the Union might not have won the war. I would like to impress upon you the lead-up to the attack, the implications that Pickett's charge would have on the rest of the war, and reveal the controversy military historians are still debating to this day. The Battle of Gettysburg was the climax of the Gettysburg Campaign and could either win the war the Confederacy or lose it for them. To understand the significance behind the battle, one must look to Lee's motivation behind the Gettysburg Campaign. It began 2 years after the advent of the war. Lee had hoped to end the war as soon as possible because the Confederacy could not survive a long war. They had a shortage of men and the Confederate economy failed. Lee wanted a decisive victory in the North to force the Union to sue for peace. Lee had two main objectives in the Gettysburg Campaign: win a decisive victory over the Federal forces and capture Harrisburg or Philadelphia. A decisive victory in Pennsylvania could have allowed the Confederacy to call on a European power to aid their bid for independence or lead to a political victory for the Confederacy. Because the Confederates launched Pickett's charge, they would never be able to win the war. Their army was ravaged by the losses at Gettysburg. According to an article out of HistoryNet.com, the Confederates suffered 28,063 casualties, which was 37% of their army. Not only did they lose many men, but the Confederate leadership was also crippled. 17 officers and generals were killed during the battle, 3 during Pickett's charge alone, according to Gettysburg Day 3 by Jeffrey Wirt. These losses are among the highest sustained by the Confederates during the entire war. With the defeat at Gettysburg, Lee was never in a position to bring the fight back to the North. Eventually, the Union began to tip the scale and would overrun the Confederacy. Pickett's charge was the determining factor of the Battle of Gettysburg. Lee's determination to achieve a decisive victory led to his aggressiveness. The first 2 days of fighting were conclusive. The first day saw delaying actions as both sides waited for their armies to gather, and the famous Union fishhook also was created on Cemetery Ridge. On the second day, July 2nd, Lee attacked both flanks of the Union line. He hoped to draw the Union reserves to the flanks as he prepared his final attack. On the third day, Lee ordered Pickett's charge to be an assault by 12,500 to 15,000 men of the Union center. Meade had foreseen this and moved all available men to the center to prepare for the attack, however. Lee wanted the attack to be led by an artillery barrage to inflict casualties on the Union defenders and to destroy some of the Union artillery. This is a picture of the map of the Pickett's charge. For the attack, the Confederates had to march about a mile over open fields to reach the Union lines. Over the mile, the Confederates would have to march through heavy artillery shelling and eventually musket fire. The Confederacy would never recover from this failed attack. 25% of the Confederate casualties lost during the Battle of Gettysburg were lost during Pickett's charge. 7,000 of the men who began the assault became casualties. After the attack, the Confederates' morale was devastated and Lee felt the need to retreat to Virginia starting July 4th. The Confederates lost not only the fight, but the war due to their failure at Pickett's charge. As the old saying goes, hindsight is 20/20. Many people who learned of Pickett's charge wonder why he was ordered. It seems futile to even attempt. Whether Lee should have ordered the attack is still a highly controversial issue. Many have argued the attack to be ludicrous. As we look at the factors surrounding Pickett's charge, it does seem like a feeble attack. The Confederates attacked over an open field in the middle of the day against an entrenched, numerically superior enemy who could devastate their lines with artillery and musket fire. Lieutenant General James Longstreet, Lee's friend and essentially second in command, did not want to give the order and attempted to dissuade Lee from the attack. Richard Garnett, one of the generals killed during Pickett's charge, said this before the attack, quote, "This is a desperate thing to attempt." He also predicted, quote, "The slaughter will be terrible." It is clear Confederate officers did not believe the attack would succeed. There's another side to this story, however. Some argue that the attack was not foolhardy and indeed had a good chance of success, and we should not be so critical of Lee. Lee had originally ordered the attack to begin at daybreak. This would have allowed the Confederates to advance into the field under cover of darkness and not be ravaged by Union guns. This could have significantly increased the effectiveness of the attack. Lee's cannonade was also thought at the time to have knocked out most of the Union artillery on Cemetery Ridge. We now know that the bombardment was fairly ineffective in terms of Union casualties and cannon destroyed. During the cannonade, the Union guns began to return fire but slowly faded away as they wanted to conserve ammunition for the attack. This led the Confederates to believe the hour-long shelling had been successful. No matter what one may think about whether the attack should have been ordered, there is no doubt the attack and its aftermath changed the direction of United States history forever. 155 years after the crucial battle and the courageous charge of the Confederates, it's hard to imagine a world with a divided America. Without the failure of Pickett's charge, we would not have the country we do today. I would highly recommend visiting Gettysburg National Military Park and Visitor Center, pictured here, there to learn more and help preserve the memory of those who died to keep our country together. It is important to acknowledge the sacrifices those men gave to fight for what they thought to be right and to honor their lives by keeping their memory alive. Thank you.